when a first responder gets injured on the job, those injuries can have life-changing effects. It can affect the person's ability to not only work, but maybe it affects their ability to be able to finish their career. These men and women put their lives on the line for us every single day. They go to work taking care of us, and they don't know if they're going to come home. It's really important that community of people has an advocate that is dedicated to protecting them.
So what do you do when you have a medical condition that jeopardizes your career in law enforcement, firefighter? Who do you talk to? Well, today we're going to talk about specifically about providing help to those that need it and qualify under the Heart and Lung Bill, specifically in the state of Florida. I am Robert Asencio. This is another episode of Bets and Badges, and I have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce you to a friend, a colleague, and my attorney, Paolo Longo, with Vickler and Longo First Responder Law Firm. How are you, Paolo?
I'm good, Robert. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm dealing with this cold, so the remnants of this cold, so I'm like, so apologize for that.
No problem.
Brother, it's been a while since we've spoken, and for the benefit of the audience, if you will, first responders, veterans, police officers, tell us a little bit about your law firm and what you specialize in.
Well, specifically, we do workers' comp, but really what we do is workers' comp for first responders, right? Police, fire, and corrections. Like you mentioned in your intro, they get some special protections, most notably the heart lung bill. But, when you guys, and when I say you guys, I mean first responders get hurt on the job, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into that. There's pension issues, there's FRS, municipal pension issues. A lot of times when you guys get hurt, it's potentially career ending. So I think it's important to talk to somebody who has experience, in that area and can help sort of walk you through what otherwise may be, a minefield.
So, whereas I'm partial to your law firm because you guys not only help me with benefits, right? Do benefits that I was unaware of that I had to fight my employer, my then employer for, who was denying me care. So I just want to make it clear, I'm advocating for protection, consultation, and expertise that you, my friend, can provide. I just wanted to put that out there. But also, let's get into it, Paolo. You know me for a long time. You know the challenges that I personally encountered. But let's talk beyond that. Let's talk about general, people that disciplines of law enforcement and first responders. The fact that they get into a career that has a strict prerequisite that they clear medical backgrounds, and then throughout the course of their jobs, they come up with either heart conditions or lung conditions that, like you said, can be career ending. Let's talk about how you or your colleagues address these and to be able to provide them assistance.
Yeah, well, first of all, Robert, your story, unfortunately, is not unique, right? There are thousands of first responders just in our state that are entitled to benefits that they don't even know about that they're not getting. Okay, it's lost wages, it's medical care. They're what we call impairment benefits. When folks are better and they can go back to work, right? But then the real problem comes when some of these injuries prevent somebody from being able to go back to either fire service or police service. What do we do then? Like you said, you start out in your 20s, you take a physical, you're strong, you're healthy, but by the time you get 20, 25 years in, right, you've got cardiac problems, firefighters dealing with cancer issues, corrections officers, dealing with cardiac problems, that they didn't have, right? And so the law in Florida states that those conditions are presumed to be work-related. Well, if they're presumed to be work-related, then you should be getting medical care, right? Appropriate medical care, get back to work, finish your career, or if not, at least get your medical care after, post-retirement and things like that. So that's, our message is, call right? Call. Information is free, and information is knowledge, and information is power. So, learn about the benefits that you're entitled to, pick up the phone call, and, we're here to walk you through, just like in your case, Robert.
If anybody wanted to get a hold of you or your law firm, uh, what number, how do they go about that?
Easy. 407-599-3777. Website, bicklerlaw.com.
On the screen. So real quick, what have you encountered as far as like agency resistance, uh, agency retaliation on first responders who have been afflicted?
Retaliation, fortunately, is very, very, very minimal. Okay, so that's the good news. But the bad news is most agencies are not going to voluntarily provide benefits and voluntarily provide information. They are going to do the bare minimum that they have to do to get by. And if they're providing you a little bit, you think that's all you're entitled to, and people just go on their merry way, not realizing that they're leaving significant financial stuff on the table, or different kinds of medical care on the table that they're paying on themselves, or that their health insurance is paying, which shouldn't be. So, retaliation I don't see a lot of, at least on the cases that I represent. Once I get involved, the employers, they don't mess with my guys, right? Because they know that somebody's watching them, and the person that was watching them knows what they're doing. So I don't get a lot of retaliation, but I talk to men and women, on the front lines every single day, that they're just surprised that they had no idea of the benefits that they were actually entitled to, and what their agency was giving them was the bare minimum.
Explain a little bit more about that, what they would be entitled to versus what the typical person, and I know no situation's the same, but
Right, but the typical case that we see, the typical call that I get is, well, I had a cardiac event, my employer's providing medical care, and I've been seeing the doctor for 4, 5, 6 years, and I feel okay. And then I ask, well, have you been placed at maximum medical improvement? Have you been paid impairment benefits? And they say, no. What is that? And they don't know what that means. When in fact, their employer knows full well that once they recover from their condition and they go back to work full time, the doctor is supposed to sign them an impairment rating, and then monetary benefits are supposed to be paid under the statute to that first responder. But the carriers, the insurance companies, the employers, they're not going to go voluntarily write 10, 20, $50,000 checks if they don't have to. So I talk to these folks, we get the records, and then we chase down those benefits. And the person's like, wow, nobody ever told me that I was entitled to this. That's kind of a typical example of what we see.
in my case, I was paying for my medical care, and it was breaking the bank. I mean, had a small children at the time, or child at the time, and cops we're not rich people. So, and medical costs are pretty expensive. So I was paying out of pocket, and I was going missing work. I was losing out on leave time. And then you guys came in and you were able to help me qualify.
Yeah, potentially you're missing overtime work, extra duties and things like that. You shouldn't be paying anything for medical care. You should be paying nothing out of pocket for medical care. Once that claim is accepted, and a lot of times we get ancillary medical conditions covered, because if they've got to treat one thing to treat the cardiac condition, well, workers' comp should be paying for all of that as well, including your medications and things like that. And you're right, it gets really expensive. If you've got to go get a catheter or some kind of cardiac testing, it can be in the thousands of dollars. And why should you be paying for that when it's presumed to be work related? Exactly. You shouldn't be paying anything.
To be clear, we're not talking about, giveaways. We're talking about benefits that first responders are due. Just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Paolo, explain to them how they would go about filing a claim, and how they would go, like what the process entails, if you will. Just a quick overview of that.
Yeah, it's real easy. I mean, filing a heart lung bill claim is just like filing any other workers' comp claim, right? If you're chasing a bad guy, or you're a firefighter in a on a scene and you get hurt, you go up the chain of command. You fill out your notice of injury. You report, the date that the incident happened, or the date that you were diagnosed, and that's it. It's a very simple proposition. It's a very simple process. I would tell you, a shameless plug, but I would definitely, give somebody at my office a call too, to walk you through the language to use, and make sure that you get it to the right person. Keep copies of everything, paperwork, because sometimes you turn in paperwork and then it disappears, right? And so make sure you keep copies of that. But filing a claim is very easy. There's no special form. There's no magic words. There's no secret recipe or formula to do. You just got to go, to your immediate supervisor and file a workers' comp injury report.
And once you guys get involved, let's say the officer or the firefighter or the first responder, corrections individual files their notice of injury, goes to the workers' comp, but they feel that they need to care for or protection of the attorneys. So once they get a hold of you guys, how does that proceed? What are the steps that proceed?
Right. Well, they give us a call. We jump on. We let the employer know that we're involved. And then we start monitoring the care. We make sure that the appropriate doctors, get assigned for whatever the condition is, whether it's a physical injury or a PTSD issue, or a cardiac issue. Whatever the injury is, we make sure that we get the appropriate doctor set up, authorized. And if there's any medication prescribed for whatever the injury is, we make sure that that's provided. And then once the person is better from their condition and they recover, we make sure that they get their appropriate impairment benefits and that they're paid correctly and timely.
And you just mentioned something that's very important: meds. For me, before I got involved with you guys, getting my prescriptions was a nightmare, right? You had to go every so many, at the end of the term of that prescription, you had to get it refilled, and that wasn't always easy to go to the doctor, and it didn't always coincide with the next doctor's visit. So I got involved with you guys, and my regimen of medicines have been delivered to my house seamlessly for years now.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of partners that we work with. I mean, we do our best to be a full service law firm for all of our clients, and especially our first responders. So we put you in touch. We make sure that you're getting your benefits and you're getting them appropriately and you're getting them timely. And I always tell my clients, if all you're entitled to is a cup of coffee, my job is to make sure you get a full cup, right? And that includes medical care, doctors, testing, medications, whatever it is, right? My job is to make sure that you get it on time and get what you're supposed to get.
And again, just to recap, because I know we're short on time, you represent first responders in the state of Florida, but for those individuals that are outside the state of Florida, do most states cover the heart and lung?
Well, there are currently about 32 states that that provide some kind of a presumption for first responders. I don't know all the 32 off the top of my head, but even if you're somebody from another state, call me and I'll put you in touch with somebody in your area that can help you. I mean, I've got a big network. I work with a lot of first responders out of the state, a lot of up north, out west in the Carolinas. So we get calls all the time from union folks and from individuals who need help in their particular state, and I'm happy to do that. Like I said, phone call is free. Call me, and if I can't help you, I'll certainly put you in touch with somebody who can.
You go, Paolo Longo from Victor Longo First Responder Law Firm. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend. Talk to you soon. Be well.
And this has been another episode of Bets and Badges. I am Robert Asencio. You can find us on most podcast platforms under Bets and Badges, or at our website, betsandbadges.com, or here at Miami's Community News, Bets and Badges. Look forward to speaking with you. To our producer behind the scenes, Tommy Stitt. Thank you to our collaborators, Michael Grant Miller. Can't thank you enough, the Miami's Community News team, and you, the audience. Look forward to speaking with you next time. Thank you.